some point. Okay, so it says the oldest recorded forms of the name of the island include Io, High, and Iowa. Saint Adamnan, in his Life of Columba, refers to it as Iova Insula, and the Old Norse Iowa, Island of the Den of the Brown Bear, has been suggested as a meaning. However, as Adamnan was writing in the 7th century, some 2 centuries before the Viking raids, a Norse origin seems unlikely. In fact, the name derives from the old Celtic word for yew tree and is found in Irish as Eo. Not quite sure how you pronounce that. Maybe Ao. The change from Iova to Iona was apparently the result of a mistranscription. N and U or V are written with 2 similar pen strokes and is found as early as 1100, though it took much longer for this to become the standard spelling. A reason for the name catching on is perhaps that Iona is a version of the Hebrew Jonah, dove, Columbus' own name, which is Latin for dove. A small island in the Inner Hebrides, in Argyll and Bute, formerly in Strathclyde region. It is separated from the western tip of the Ross of Mull by the Sound of Iona, which is about 1.5 kilometres or a mile across. It was here that St. Columba, or Columcille, arrived from Ireland in 563 to establish a monastery and to begin the conversion of the Scots and the Picts. Apparently, he missed his homeland. And on Iona, Columcille sought ease by wearing Irish mould next his feet, and that was written by Seamus Heaney in Gravities from Death of a Naturalist, 1966. Up to the end of the 18th century, the island was often referred to as Icolmkill, combination of the ancient name High with a personal name Columcille, a distinguishing variant of Columba, meaning literally church pigeon. The name of the place continues to cause a degree of confusion, as in the following conversation overheard in an Edinburgh bookshop. American customer, do you have a map of Denana? Bookseller, Denana, sir. Where is that? American customer, well, it's a little island off the west coast of Scotland. Okay, I don't really understand that. Denana. Okay, let's have some coffee. I hope somebody can actually tell me what that means. Yum. The island is regarded as the cradle of faith in Scotland and was described by William Wordsworth as this glory of the West. St. Columba set up an enduring foundation on the island. Apparently, discipline was strict, for when in 1772 Thomas Pennant visited the bay where Columba landed, he was told, These, as he said, were the penances of monks, who were to raise heaps of dimensions equal to their crimes, and to judge by some, it is no breach of charity to think there were among them enormous sinners. That was written by Thomas Pennant, A Tour of Scotland, and A Voyage to the Hebrides, 1773. From 795, Iona suffered 2 centuries of Viking attacks, and the body of St. Columba, together with the famous Book of Kells, probably begun in Iona, were moved to Kells in Ireland in 849, after the slaughter of 68 monks at Martyrs Bay. The monastery revived in the 11th century, and a Benedictine establishment was founded in 1201. Along with the other Hebrides, Iona was in the possession of the kings of Norway until 1266. I actually didn't know that. Being so far west, and thus so near to heaven, in the Middle Ages, Iona became the burial place of Scottish as well as Irish and Norwegian kings, and it is said that the bones of all the kings of Scotland from Kenneth MacAlpin, who died in 858, to Macbeth, died 1057, lie here in Macbeth. That's the Shakespeare play, obviously. When Ross asks what has happened to the murdered Duncan's body, Macduff replies, carried to Combe-Gill, the sacred storehouse of his predecessors and guardian of their bones. Okay, let's have a bit more coffee. was already an important port by the 14th century, handling large quantities of wool and cloth, but its greatest prosperity came with the corn shipping trade of the 18th century. King's Lynn was once a walled town, but only a small part of the wall, and its south gate, 1520, remain. The town's mercantile past has endowed it with a legacy of fine commercial buildings, including Hampton Court, originally a 14th century warehouse. The Hanseatic Warehouse. 1428, a depot used by the German Hanseatic League. The Greenland Fishery House, 1605, a former merchant's house, now a museum. And the Dutch Style Custom House, 1683, on the quay. Notable municipal buildings include St George's Guildhall, dating from the early 15th century, now restored as a theatre and arts centre, the oldest example in England of a medieval merchant guild's house. The octagonal Red Mount Chapel, 1485, originally served as a stopping place for pilgrims on the way to the shrine at Walsingham. Right. The King's Road, or road belonging to the king. That makes sense. A road in Chelsea, South West 3, SW6 and SW10 in the London Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, running southwards from Sloane Square to Waltham Green. A continuation towards Putney Bridge is called New King's Road. It was constructed in the early 17th century, originally as part of a royal route between Whitehall and Hampton Court. It was not open for public use until 1830. Came to prominence in the 1960s when it suddenly became an epicentre of London youth culture, with an admixture of Chelsea bohemianism. It was awash with boutiques and bistros. The original impulse petered out in the 1970s into an area of punkery, but the reputation and fleeting hints of the 60s aura remain. Okay, more coffee. What's this one? The Five Sisters of Kintail. Kintyre. Kirby Lonsdale. Kirkcaldy. It's in Scotland. A bit more coffee. Kirkstone Pass. which actually means something else in the context of which I'm saying it, if that makes sense. It's crazy, really. Right. Okay, let's see. Alright, let's do another London place. This is Lambeth, or landing place for lambs, referring to a harbour from or to which lambs were shipped. A district and borough of Inner London, the district SE1, SE11, lies on the south bank of the River Thames, opposite the city of Westminster, to which it is joined by Lambeth Bridge, a road bridge originally constructed in 1861, as well as by Hungerford, Vauxhall, Waterloo and Westminster bridges. In 1965 the district was united with Brixton, Streatham, Tulse Hill, Vauxhall, Waterloo and parts of Clapham and Kennington to form the borough of Lambeth. whisper sing.